This is the Stacking Days Podcast, the podcast about the healing experience of recovery for people of color by people of color. This show is for the purpose of education and connection and is not a replacement for therapy or recovery care. We suggest you seek out the support of a trained professional for guidance with your specific circumstance. I'm your host, Ray Donovan, and I've been alcohol-free since September 2021. Welcome to the show. Hey yo, what's going on? Welcome back to the Stacking Days Podcast. You guys are in for a real treat today. My guest is a community leader. He's an activist. He's doing many beautiful things in his community, particularly with youth. We're going to get into all of that. But I'm excited because he and I have been playing tag probably for, a little over a month at this point. So we finally got a chance to catch each other for an hour or so. So with that said, I want to welcome Wilner Joseph to the show. Welcome to the show, Wilner.
Man, thank you, my brother, man. God bless you, man, for everything that you're doing and just highlighting, people's testimonies on your platform and giving people the opportunity to be able to save lives and also inspire other people to understand the importance of being sober. My name is Wilner Joseph again. I'm born in Stamford, Connecticut. Graduated high school here in Stamford at Westfield High School. Went off to play college ball at a small junior college in Waterbury, Connecticut. Then I went over to the FIT Fashion School, Fashion Institute down in New York City, me and my younger brother, Max Antoine. And then from there, I tried to pursue my professional career. Went over to Montreal, Canada to play over for the Montreal Express. And then came back to the States, played for a couple of semi-pro basketball teams. And just decided not to keep chasing this NBA dream and decided to, use my basketball platform to help other children do sports, right? And highlight other things that kids are struggling with, mental health, violence, gun violence, other things that, to me, that are important that we don't discuss a lot. When I started Hoops for All in 2012, it was pretty much geared towards doing basketball programs for autistic children. And in 2017, my mission kind of changed. And it was more broad, highlighting more of just doing programs for children, not just with autism, but with other type of situations, mentally, physically challenged in so many different areas, financially challenged, so many areas, and just utilizing my resources to bring to my community so I can help my people to be able to get ahead in life.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And for the audience, we started our recording a little late today because Wilner is, he's he's in the community for real. He was helping out today and, we had to get a late start. I'll never stop anybody from jumping in to help another. So I appreciate you, earmarking some time for us today, Wilner.
Yeah, thank you.
I didn't know that you played semi-pro in Montreal. That's actually where I'm from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I love. I haven't been there in forever, but I love Montreal. It's beautiful.
That's awesome. Well, look, man, let's rewind it back, right? And we're going to get into everything that you're up to these days. You have obviously a story that I want to make sure that we have some time that we can get into. But why don't we rewind it all the way back to kind of the early days of your relationship, with alcohol? We'll talk a little bit about that, and then get to a point where we start talking about why you decided to move away from it and how you moved away from it. So I'm going to hand it over to you just to kind of give us a little context into what that meant for you in your life and how you ultimately were able to break free.
My relationship with alcohol started very, very young. I would say in my early teens. I think when I started doing it, I was always hanging around older men who indulge in alcohol, and I just thought alcohol was a cool way to get introduced, to be able to fit in a certain crowd, and also the cool way to be able to fit into women I was interested in who were older than me. And I just thought it was cool. It made me feel different, but maybe it gave me confidence, and I just started indulging in it a lot more. Than I should have at an early age. And as it continued, as I got older and older, obviously college, and growing up in a Caribbean household, it's kind of normal to allow your kid to indulge in like a little drink there and there. And it just happens to, really have me in this dark place throughout my years and not realizing the effect that it had on my mind, my decision making, my physical being an athlete. Just it put me in a state of crisis. And when I go back to my faith, God been saving me for a long time because I could have killed somebody in a car accident. I could have killed myself. I've damaged a lot of relationships with alcohol.
Mm.
But it got worse when my brother passed away in 2017. And then when my nephew, his son, passed away in 2019 in a car accident. And then I decided in 2019, it's enough is enough. I got to make smarter decisions. I got to be able to sacrifice things that are damaging my body. What could I do to really inspire others? You know, especially being a black man in this community, everybody's indulging in alcohol, especially when you're dealing with mental health and you're dealing with depression or when you're dealing with grief. I realized it was damaging me and it was damaging my relationships. It was damaging my business. And I started doing it month to month, me and a girlfriend of mine at the time, who I was dealing with. And, I started to love how I was feeling.
Mm.
And I went cold turkey. I didn't get any help. I was asking God to guide me at the time. And I started loving the change and I started documenting everything I was doing. And the people were asking me on Instagram, well, why are you doing countdowns? And I'm like, you'll see. I wasn't telling nobody. And then when I got to my 100th day, and I started, I did a YouTube series and told people what my journey was. And when a year came, I did like a big celebration. And ever since then, I haven't looked back. I love my change. My skin looks better. My body is in much better condition. I've healed in so many different ways. I'm still healing, but it just feels amazing. But the hardest part is going back to those places where alcohol still consumes in areas where people still think you need to be drinking to be able to fit in, or you know what I mean, or people make you feel guilty about not drinking.
Yeah. I mean, you're pretty public about the fact that you don't drink, right? I mean, at least with
Yes,
folks who you're close to. So
absolutely.
and we were talking, I don't know, a month and change ago, and you were at an event, and you and I got on the phone, and you were just surprised that I don't think they had any non-alcoholic options for you, and you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
kind of a little shocked by that. So I know it's something that you are very clear about as being a part of one of your values. I mean, considering that you didn't do a program, how did you go about quitting cold turkey? How did you come to that decision to say, you know what? Today I'm giving up, and maybe this has a lot to do with your brother, R.I.P. obviously, and your nephew. But how did that kind of play into you leading up to say, you know what, I got to put this stuff down, because cold turkey that's a hard road. So I want to hear a little bit about that process for you.
Well, one thing that anybody that knows me know, I'm a competitor. When I challenge myself to do something, I stick to it. I think I've been to a couple of AA meetings just to sit in, just to hear other people. And when I sat in those meetings, it kind of made me feel like, damn, never ever judge people, because it was all types of walks of life in these AA meetings. I always looked down upon people who went to AA meetings. So actually just going to volunteer, just to go sit in and
Mm-hmm.
participate a couple of times, it kind of woke me up. Like, you know what? I don't want to be like this. That these people are who are coming here, and all, like I said, all walks of life. Like, there's no judgment zone. I said it's time for me to give up something that's not doing anything good in my life. When I tell people, what have alcohol done for you? That's positive. Nobody can give me a positive answer. So I said, there you go.
Yeah.
That's your answer when you ask me why I gave it up. So people, when you give up, they go, oh, well, you were alcoholic, or were you? Why I just gave it up because it wasn't doing anything great in my life. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful that, I lost money and I lost relationships, but I didn't lose my life and I didn't kill nobody behind the wheel. So, you know, I've seen people do that and lose everything by just making that wrong decision, by getting behind the wheel and drinking and driving and thinking they're invincible. They end up crashing their car, killing themselves or killing somebody else, or killing somebody in the car with them, like my nephew. Right? He was in the car with a drunk driver who was driving, a young man, his best friend, and two people ended up losing their life, him and another, his best friend.
And again, sorry to hear that. Obviously, I mean, you talk about growing up and being in the Caribbean, household, and alcohol almost being condoned. It's a normal thing, and folks not recognizing how detrimental that could be later on in life. Because if it's just a normal thing like driving is, why can't I put these two things together? It's not going to be an issue, right? And clearly, that's a cause. And with so I want to segue away for a second and then come back. So I want to talk about $1 Million Smile and what work you're doing there, particularly as it pertains to gun violence. Can you share a little bit with the audience what that looks like?
So in 2017, when my brother was murdered on April 20th, Um, one of my community friends, his name is Carl. He's a graphic designer artist. He created this logo of my brother, and on the logo it said $1 million smile, and it was just a T-shirt. You know how we do T-shirts when people die, and you just create T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So it started off like that, and I started asking myself, like, when I started seeing that people were asking questions and people were really, really excited about like this thing that's on his shirt, and people thought it was me, Obama, and I had to explain to people what it was, but still the message wasn't still clear. So we went on and on for a while with just the logo. But, only local people know what it meant, but actual people who didn't know my brother didn't know what the message was. This guy I remember from Europe came to one of my pop-up events, and he said, "Can I give you some advice?" I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "I don't want you to take it personal." I'm like, "No." He's like, I think your message is great, but people who don't know is confused because I thought it was a dentist practice." And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"What?" And I took it personal, and I was like, "Nah, he makes sense." Because because it's so, sometimes when you're so passionate about something, you dare, it's so, you're so close to something, you don't really see, or
Yeah.
let the outsider got to tell you. So I was like, so I had to really step outside of myself and think about it as a customer. And I'm like, he makes sense. So I came up with this slogan: "No more silence and gun violence." So when you see the actual shirt, it gives you the opportunity to be able to want to support it because there's a cause behind it. And it also supports other victims who've been affected by it. And it also makes you to, when everybody likes to get dripped up, right? Everybody wants to dress. But when you wear something that has a cause behind it and a positive message to be able to be an ambassador, you walk around with a message, people will stop you and it creates conversation. Now people are able to know my brother's story and know why it started when we see other people in other cities and other countries wearing this actual brand. So when I knew that it was a hit, when I recognized, because I remember I was in Atlanta and I was in the elevator with this couple and his family, and they the one who gave me like the spark to really go hard with it. I said, you know what, I'm on to something, and then this is a great way to honor my brother, keep his legacy alive because he was into fashion, and
Mm-hmm.
when he passed away, I found out he was going to start his own fashion business, and this is a great way to pay him back.
Yeah, I definitely want to, folks to check you out, and we'll drop, the website in the show notes, for sure. I wanted to lay the ground a little bit with the work that you're doing with the fashion label. Obviously, you're working with, kids and ball. When you're in the community and you see you're hearing about all, these things happening, with the youth, and pair that with gun violence. How often are you seeing alcohol playing a part in a lot of these violent situations that are taking place from your perspective?
Majority of violence that happens is always in the influence of drug and alcohol. 100%. Nobody's ever sober and commit murder.
Hmm.
It's a rare percentage.
So when we're thinking about that, I mean, from your perspective, being that this is like your work of being an activist, how do you address that in the community? Because they almost, in some ways, can go hand in hand. I mean, to your point, nobody's committing violent acts, in a sober state. Very few folks, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How do you kind of address that when it is so normal?
Well, I think, especially being a young black man in my community, where I'm able to address these issues and talk about it, kids see me and say, "Oh my God, this man is not indulging in violence or alcohol, and he doesn't smoke weed or none of the above." This is inspiring because everybody expects you, when you're a black man in your community, everybody expects you to indulge in normal behavior. So when I'm not
Hmm.
doing that, I'm able to really stay consistent doing the work that I'm doing, inspiring kids, doing the programs I'm doing, and not doing the things that's normal to other people. It's kind of been inspiring to these kids. Like, you know what? Let me give it a try. You know what I mean? Or let me follow his movement. So people are following and understanding that it is real because this guy who I see every day, he doesn't indulge in these behaviors because of this is why he went through X, Y, and Z, and he's able to come out of it. So maybe, again, maybe I can't save every life, but I do find people that really say, you know what, I didn't stop, but I tried stopping for a little bit, and I liked the way I felt. Or
Hmm.
some people stop. Some people realize they had a problem by just hearing my story. So you can't save every life, but you can save one, and I'm doing my job by saving one.
Yeah, I love that. How long have you've been alcohol free now?
September 21st will make it 4 years.
4 years. So in that time of 4 years, especially considering that you haven't subscribed to any specific program like an AA program where there's
Yeah.
it's a pretty regimented program. what are some of the things that you turn to today? I mean, I'm assuming because you went to cold turkey, it's basically just been your discipline, right, and your competitive nature. If there's something else that you turn to, please share. But what I'm even more interested in is what are some of the unexpected kind of benefits that have come to you by quitting the drink that maybe you didn't even take into consideration when you were making that decision for yourself.
I think being sober, just watching how silly people look under the influence, turns me off completely. Like, oh my God,
Mm,
this is how I was acting. This is like, I'm always a babysitter. I'm always a designated driver. And I'm like, nah, I would never turn back into this again. And going on dates with women, and I feel like, you know, I don't mind women drinking, but I feel like that's like their go-to. That turns me off. So it just turns me off completely. Where it doesn't even give me the second guess to say I want to try it again. I just don't want to even do it. And I love the way my body feels, and I'm like, my body is, like I said, healed, right, through all the damages I put it through for so many years. And the fact
mm,
that when I go back and forth to my doctor to get physicals, and he tells me he's never seen a 43-year-old in the greatest shape, and blood work is so amazing. Everything is just so perfect. My doctor's just blown away by how, my body is. And I'm blown away by, I still can compete at a high level when it comes to playing basketball. So like
mm,
I'm like, I blow young kids away. Like, yo, how you are still able to move that quick? Or like, how come you're never tired? Like, you go 3-4 hours playing pickup and you don't even stop for water.
mm.
You know what I mean? So like, when I hear people feedback on how they perceive me and they look at me, I love it. And people that look at me like, you got this glow to you, man. What's going on? Like, it just, when you hear positive feedback, it makes you want to keep going.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I never played semi pro ball, but I definitely have always been physically active, and I've also found I haven't touched a drink since 2021 September 21, so almost 2 years, and I also found that once you turn that switch on, your body just can gives an opportunity to just regenerate, right?
Hmm.
And if you have that kind of like baseline of physical activity and that muscle memory, your body just taps back into what it once was, almost when you were 15 years younger. It's such a crazy thing to experience. And I mean, I'm about to be 43 in a few weeks here, and I'm fortunate to be in that position to still feel like a certain degree of youth, even as I continue to age. So I definitely understand you when you come from there.
Feels good, man. I mean, I tell people, anybody that's listening, don't ever feel guilty if you want to change, make some changes in your life. Don't, don't do it for nobody. Do it for you. Do it for your
Yeah.
health. Health is wealth. If you don't take care of your body, it will decrease, and you won't live too long. I promise you that. A lot of my friends who
Yeah.
are still indulge in alcohol, I see their skin is depleting, their body's depleting, their mind is depleting. And I'm like, there's no way I want to be that way. I want to be 80, 90 years old, strong as an ox, wise, clear minded, and be able to just move freely without feeling like I got to walk with a cane because my liver is shutting down or
Yeah.
my kidneys are shutting down, whatever. You know what I mean? So
What do you think? What do you think is preventing some of your friends who are probably in the same age group as you, looking at you, saying, "Well, wow, Wilner, he's really turned the corner here. The guy literally has lost like 10 years of age. Why don't I give this thing a shot?" What do you think is holding them up?
afraid of change.
Mm,
Some people just are afraid of change. And sometimes when you got to really look yourself in the mirror, it's scary. And if you don't have faith, that's also a scary thing. We live in a society now where majority of people rely on evil, rely on the devil, right?
mm.
So if you rely on God, you won't be afraid to do what's right. And that's just the answer. If you rely on God, or you believe in God, or Jesus Christ, whatever your faith is, or if you believe in a higher power, a positive power, you will do what's right.
Have you always been one to believe in a higher power and be a spiritual religious person, or is that something that's come even more so over the last 4 years for
It's
you?
always been there. It's just on another level now. The fact that I took it more serious, and I'm more educated in that area now, and understanding it more than I've ever done before. So it kind of grown on me, and it's grown even more each and every day that I understand it. I read my Bible app every morning. I pray before I speak to the public. I speak to anybody. I pray. I check in with God first, and I also I host a prayer circle every Wednesdays at 5 a.m. at the beach, and I invite people over who can make it. And it's so refreshing, and you just see people just pray and just ask God for forgiveness, ask God for just, help and unity. And that's what we do. And it's the best thing ever. They took that out of school, man. When you take religion and God out of schools and houses, you see what's going on around the world. Ever since they took religion out of schools, there's been mass shootings. Ever since they took prayer and prayer out of family homes, people that don't pray anymore, you see what's happening. Kids are killing parents. Kids are going crazy. Mental health. If you take God out of the equation, it's going to be bad results.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that for most folks, in this, who've decided to kind of pursue any type of mental health and, it's spiritual health, there's always, seems to be this like larger purpose, behind it, that they tap into. And, whether if that's religion, if that's spirituality, whatever you want to call it, categorize it. I do think that, is something you want to be able to tap into. I am curious also, with the passing of your brother and your nephew, how has, being alcohol free and also being spiritual contributed to you being able to grieve their losses? Versus maybe how would you have been able to do it if you had still been kind of abusing yourself?
I think if I was still abusing, I would still have more meltdowns that I've had in the past. I probably would not be talking to you. I probably would be in jail or dead, because there was times where I contemplated suicide, or there was times where I've contemplated trying to kill the person that harmed my brother. So me being sober and where I'm at now and disciplined have turned me into a wise, forgiving man. And that's the hardest thing to do.
I was going to say forgiveness is a tough one.
I watched this movie on Netflix called Shaq. If you ever get a chance, watch it. It teaches you and shows you the importance of forgiveness. And when I watched that, Shaq.
Okay.
When I watched that, it said, that's it. I mean, it's very, very emotional movie, but it really keeps you grounded on letting you know that you're not perfect. Like you can forgive. If God could forgive you, why can't you forgive others for the things we've done, for the sins we've committed?
Yeah. I'm going to check that out on Netflix. I haven't heard of that. Is it a documentary?
Yeah, it's a movie.
Okay. So, I mean, forgiveness, and I've talked to folks of many different walks of life on this show, and it's we all come into face to face with tragedies, with loss, with traumas, and sometimes those are by the hands of other individuals, whether they're folks in your family or folks outside doing harm to other folks in your family. Forgiveness is a hard one to get over, and then you pair forgiveness with can you forget about it? You know what I mean, and continue to move on. How have you been able to leverage your forgiveness? I'm assuming there's no forgetfulness there, but how have you turned that energy and that passion back into continuing to be the better person?
I think my energy comes from just seeing the impact I'm having in my community, especially with the youth. The smiles I put on their faces, the things that I can do for them to be able to give them hope and show them love that they never received from their parents or even school. That's what keeps me going every day. That for me not to give up, but I also got to remind myself that I also have to check in with myself, because self-care is very key. You cannot take care of others out of an empty cup, right? So I always got to check in and pour back into my cup so I can be able to pour back out. So that's also key. Doing what I do, you always got to always got to recharge and check in with yourself and self-care. Take care of yourself and love yourself because you can't take care of nobody else if you're not taking care of yourself.
It's interesting. 5-10 years ago, you never heard anybody in our communities talking about self-care really, on a major level. Particularly Black men and Black women. You just never heard about true self-care. And I'm not just talking about getting a massage. Yeah. I'm talking about like true acts of like love in yourself, right? What are some of the things that you do to care and love yourself?
Taking a break from social media, family, friends, just checking out. Going for walks, drives, pampering myself, getting my nails done, and getting on the plane, traveling by myself, just doing things for myself. Just exercising a lot. You know what I mean? Going for hikes, just individual things that bring me happiness, where I don't have to rely on no one else. And also praying a lot. I pray a lot. Again, I pray a lot.
Yeah. How often do you pray?
As much as I can, right? I try to pray before I go into meetings, before I go in my car, if I'm traveling somewhere. If I'm I'm about to flip out on somebody, I like pray and ask God to, and then I stop. Like, I only want to indulge in flipping out. So I try to, so I always say I'm in training right now. I'm still in training because like you're never going to be perfect, but when you train yourself to get that way, it keeps you disciplined on how to talk to people, how to address people, how to address situations where you don't address it with anger or just off impulse. You know, just try to address
Yeah.
it calmly and address it in a positive manner, the best way you can, because you can't light fire with fire. This doesn't work.
Are you also a churchgoer, or do you kind of have you been able to kind of independently pursue your your
I was
spirituality?
independently doing it. I'm also attending a church here in Connecticut. It's in Darien. It's called Kingdom Full Tabernacle. I just started going to this church. I love it. It's a really inspiring church. Our pastor is really amazing. It's I love it because it's well diverse, and our church is well involved in the community. I can't attend a church that doesn't get involved in community stuff. I just you can't always expect people to come to your home and you don't come to other people who don't
Right.
know how to come to your home, right? How do you want to invite people, but how do you come to their home, meet them? You got sometimes people are struggling. You got to meet them where they're at. So like I'm one of those. Like I'm like boots on the ground. I like to get my hands dirty.
So speaking of getting your hands dirty, what are some of the things that you're up to today? And it sounds like you juggle quite a bit, in the community and a lot of the work that you're doing. What does like a day in the life of Wilner look like these days?
A lot. I I mean, I'll give you an example. Today, I was on my way to my program Reflections. It's a mentoring program that I run Mondays and Saturdays at the YMCA. I'm running late, but for some reason, God shift my energy in my head. Looked over, I see two young ladies tussling, and my obligation is stop and figure out what's going on. And some people wouldn't do it, right? They just like keep going. I was able to get out the car and come to find out it was a mom and daughter fighting, and the daughter was struggling mentally, and the mom tracked her down. This girl came to my city from another little town over, and she, she's bipolar, but then indulging with drugs and dealing with older men, and she's 19, and the mom is just trying to save her, and she thinks the mom is like being a pain, and I'm like, I don't know. I think God just allowed me to be able to cover this young girl and save her. And I was able to get this girl just in my corner and talk to her down and get her to apologize to mom and get in the car and go home. And I was like, I couldn't believe I did that. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a
Mm,
mental health therapist, but I'm the man of God, and I'm a man that just know how to do his job right if I'm doing God's work and I'm doing it with a good heart. And despite the fact that I was late for my program, but I was able to really do a good deed and help a mom out. And she was grateful for it. She called me, texted me with tears, like, "Hey, thank you so much for saving my life and my daughter's life," because she didn't know what to do. And
mm,
I always tell people it takes, if people start really taking a little bit of time out their time. I know it's dangerous out here, but when you're doing God's work and you're doing it with a good intention, God's going to cover you. He's not going to harm you.
mm,
Despite, I know we say, "Oh, what if that person shoots us?" And uh, I'm not worried about that. If it happens, and it happens. But I know if it happens, it's going to happen for me doing God's work. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I'm not too concerned about always thinking the negative. I try to think as positive as possible, and knowing that God knows that everything that I'm doing is just honoring Him and doing His work, and understanding that there are people out there that needs help and needs prayer. And I go into every situation with prayer and asking God to guide me and lead me to help anybody that's struggling mentally, physically, financially. I don't have a lot of money, but God always makes a way for me to find it and be able to help others who don't have it. So,
Mm,
that being said, I always say that, I always tell my friends, if I ever become filthy rich, I won't have all the money, because all the money will be gone because I'm going to give it away, because I don't need it. Money doesn't thrive me. It helps pay bills, and it keeps me to be able to do things I want to do as far as like traveling. But I'm not into materialistic things. I'm not into cars. Like, I'm not gonna go buy a Maybach. I'm not gonna go buy 5 mansions. Like, I'm not gonna go buy chains and all that other crazy stuff. I'm not into all that, because I feel like, why I'm gonna wear a $60,000, $70,000 chain where I could take $70,000 and feed so many families? Why would I buy a
yeah.
Maybach that costs 300, 400,000 where I can invest in a Honda Accord, and it takes me from A to B, and I can take that rest of the money and I can feed families, or invest into stock, or invest into property, and not even buy houses. I want to buy land. so I can build on the land and be able to help people that don't have nowhere to live or don't have nowhere to eat, so I can build crops and feed people. That's my goal. That's why I always pray to God is to help me, just give me the financial freedom so I can find a way to be able to do these things I want to do to serve my community. And that's the best way to help our community is building and well, breaking the economic gap and the financial gap by doing these things, right? Investing into land and building on your land to be able to help people and show people how to grow crops and eat clean. And that's the one thing I promote is nutrition and eating clean. I don't eat meat. I don't eat chicken. I don't eat beef. I don't eat pork. I try to eat as clean as much as I can. I'm a pescatarian. I eat fish still, but I eat clean. I take a lot of natural supplements, sea moss, black seed oil, ginger. I take smoothies. I fast. Sometimes I eat until 12 o'clock. I do the best things possible. That's why I tell you, like when it came to COVID and all that other stuff, I wasn't a big fan of the vaccine and all that because I know what God said is real. The stuff that they've given us, that's not godly. It don't come from the ground. That's man-made stuff to keep us getting side effects, and people are dying right now from them COVID shots, and they're not reporting it because that's where they make their money. But I'm not going to get political. I'm just promoting, telling people to start eating clean, taking natural supplements that come from the ground, stuff that our ancestors lived off of. You know what I'm saying? If they lived off of it and they were able to survive and look great the way we look, right? Why not
Mm-hmm.
keep that same thing going right now in 2023? It still exists, but the doctors are not going to promote it because why? They make the pharmaceutical company, they make billions of dollars by keeping us medicated. You look at the commercials, what they say, this is a side effect. You're doing it at your own risk, but we still do it.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, once you start making healthier, choices for yourself and you start leaning into those, there's a lot of benefits that come with, making the right
Absolutely.
decisions, as far as your body's concerned, that obviously starts playing out into how your mind functions and so on and so forth. And I just, I appreciate the fact that you have, a backbone of spirituality to basically support all of that.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, without that, again, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. But the grace of God gave me the strength and the discipline to really be here, man. It's just so exciting. Even sometimes, I get anxiety, I get down sometimes, but I always remind myself on how grateful that I need to be because I'm in a position a lot of people can't be. Right, there are people who are in prison who will never see daylight in their life. There are people who are sick who can't get out the bed physically. There are people who are deceased, right? So I'm grateful to every time I wake up in the morning. I thank God for just waking me up. I thank Him for my strength. I thank Him for the opportunity to be able to see another day of life, to be able to help others and help myself. And I'm gonna keep that same attitude going until my last breath. Just try to spread as much positivity and unity and love as much as possible. And that's all I know. And that's all I'm gonna keep doing. And that's what I'm gonna keep teaching these kids and teach people in my family to practice those same things. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. I got a couple of questions that I'm going to ask as we start to wrap up the
Yep.
conversation. And one is for you, and then and they're both for you, but one is kind of like a two-part question. Part of the question I ask most guests. So the first part of that question is, in some of your darkest days, when you were, really struggling, 4 years and change ago, how would somebody from the outside have known that you were struggling without you have telling them so?
Nobody didn't know. Only people that knew was my daughter, because my daughter knows me very well, and I've always was honest with her. And every time I had any situations, I've always called her with my meltdown, so she understood it. But then she understood, but didn't understand, right? Because you know, at the time, my daughter, she's 24 now. She probably was like 19, so it's like she's dealing with her own mental health, losing her uncle and her cousin. So it's like you can't put that
Yeah.
much pressure on her, but nobody know. I've really mastered it very, very well. And that's one thing that we do very well. And people ignore those signs. And that's one thing I tell people when taking mental health classes. I've realized there are signs that people ignore, and you cannot ignore that. And just checking in with your friends. Even if they're, just saying hello, not checking in when you want to when you want something, just checking, just let them know you love them. Let them know that you just want to know that they're good, that they're having a good day, and just sometimes they don't want you to talk. You just want to just listen to them. Because you never
That,
want to be that person
I was
on
going
the
to
other
say,
end saying that I should have, I could have.
yeah, I mean that was going to be the other side of the question that I don't usually get a chance to ask folks. But considering that you are an activist, considering that you're in the community, and you're clearly, leading with God and being very in tune with the folks who are around you, what are some of the signs that you look for when somebody else is struggling?
Isolation, behavior, and like their self care, their behavior period, or that when they start giving away things, indulging in more alcohol or taking drugs that they probably would never took before. Just a lot of different signs. Just their just their normal activity. If that changes, and when they're doing things they're not used to doing, you got just little things that they do, or just their language changes a little bit. Things that they normally wouldn't say that they start saying. Just little things you look out for. That's key.
Yeah.
So those are things I would tell people to look for, and also just always remind people the proper, uh, the importance of information to provide people dealing with mental health what numbers to call when there's a crisis going on.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that those are all really great points, because I think that sometimes, I feel like we're really good at masking what's going on with ourselves to others, and sometimes in a better position to identify what's going on in others, So I think that's a helpful clear out. What would you so last question I have for you is what would you share with someone who's sitting there listening to this, today, really dealing with, mental, health issues, maybe dealing with, substance issues more specifically, what would you suggest to them being the first step to, a brighter day?
I would say find somebody you trust that you can confide in to ask them to guide you and help you. It could be a counselor, a brother, a friend, or a stranger, right? Because you never know, that stranger could really lead you somewhere. And just finding a way to tap into your faith and really taking key to praying hard. And he will give you confirmation on where he needs to lead you. One thing God don't do is make mistakes. It's one thing he doesn't do. Um, and also, I would say just, you know, surrounding yourself around positive people, people that are doing good,
Mm,
right? You don't want nobody that's going to judge you, or people that feel like they're talking down on you, people that are open minded to really listen to your issues and want to help you through your problems. And those are people I want to surround myself with, like good or bad, you're going to stick with me. If you don't have that,
yeah.
I would say find resources of places that you can go to, right? If you're struggling with alcohol, AA meetings are good people that you can really surround other people who are trying to create change, right? There are groups out there that you can sit with and that won't judge you, that are struggling, or people who struggle that are willing to lift you up in positive prayers, or positive situations, and just try to get involved in things that are positive. That's it, and not indulge in negative situations like social media. That's something that could trigger you. Don't go out partying no more. Don't go to bars. Don't go around certain neighborhoods or people who are negative. And if you eliminate yourself from that, you'll be fine.
Positivity and try to look for no judgment
Yep.
zones. Wilner, where can everybody find you?
Well, I'm also, besides the entrepreneur and community activist, I'm also a motivational speaker as well. So anybody that would love to book me to speak at schools or community events, or even at your job at corporate places. I spoke at corporate places as well. You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is WP Joseph. That's my personal Instagram. The Million Dollar Smile Instagram is Million Dollar Smile 83 in one word. And my nonprofit Instagram is Hoops for All. That's HOOPS, the number four, ALL Stanford on Instagram. And my professional training Instagram, I'm a professional basketball trainer, is Young Athletes, the number four change. So I wear so many different hats, but those are my handles. Our website is www.hoopsforallstanford.org. And those are all the handles you can find me. My Facebook is Wilner P Joseph. Not hard to find. You can inbox me, DM me any questions, or if you want my services, you can book me for whatever it is that you need. I'm there. I'm an open book. If you need to have a conversation with me about anything and you have some advice, I'm there for it, man. Those are my social media platforms. You can reach out to me anytime. You know, whatever it is that you need. If I don't have it, I have the resources to help you with anything that you need.
I appreciate that, man. I suggest, if folks, particularly if you're out in Connecticut, Wilner is very active. He's doing a lot, wearing a lot of hats, as he mentioned. But brothers, he's willing to, put some time aside, to help and, and support folks who are in need. So I appreciate you, number one, for putting that out there and putting that offer out there. And then number two, just for coming on the show and chatting with us for a little bit, man.
No, definitely, man. I finally got a chance to be on your wonderful show, man. I've heard nothing but great things about you, and I love your journey. Keep on doing what you're doing, man. You inspiring me too, because I've always wanted to do a podcast. I just haven't got around the time to do it, but I know God is going to put it when the time is right. Thank you again for allowing me to be on this platform and share my testimony and continue the great work that you're doing, man. You're inspiring as well, and take care of yourself and keep putting that good work out there.
I appreciate it, man. If you ever want to, learn a little bit about the podcast game, I'll try to let you know what I've learned. I'm still young in this thing, but it's been a great project that I've been working on, and just to be able to sit here and chat with folks, who are inspiring like yourself. I mean, it means the world to me. I mean, honestly, it's been therapeutic for me also. Is just to your point earlier, connect with folks who are positive, number one. And folks are not going to judge you, because we all got our own struggles that we've come from. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
So I appreciate you for that, man. And I'm sure that we'll stay in contact. Next time I come out to Stanford, I'll holler at you.
Yeah, definitely, man. Have a blessed evening, and I know you're a father, man. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. You too, brother.
All right, God bless you.
All right, you too.
Thank you for listening to the Stacking Days podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email me at rdg@stackingdays.com or follow us on Instagram @stackingdays. If you like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, and by all means share it with a friend who you think needs to be invited into the conversation. Until we meet again, be well, one day at a time.